You're about to watch an interview with David Magna, 40-year-old vegan. He's a Canadian ex-slaughterhouse inspector.
Almost like I froze in time, and we still see that image almost every day. And then I see more heads frozen, and I look to my left beyond that, and there's people throwing birds on these shackles, these lines, yanking them out. You hear the birds chirping. The smell is unbelievable, and yeah, like at that moment, you don't want to be there, but I'm thinking my grandfather helped me get the job. My family's invested in this. I got to be invested in it, and I had to shut off. And I think that's kind of the era that I grew up in as well. Is you don't really share your feelings, and I mentioned it to the inspector about the head being frozen, but nothing really happened from there.
How old were you this first day?
Yeah, I was 19. Yeah.
And so how did you manage to sort of turn that off and continue working?
Well, like I say it often, like a piece of you leaves you when you work in that industry. You can't not walk out of those places and be a normal person, So, yeah, I mean, that's sort of what happens. You have to de-individualize the animals. During training, I remember there's a place called Conestoga Meats. They put pigs into gas chambers, if you didn't know. And it burns their skin, their eyes, and their entire bodies. And before that, I wasn't really aware, but I remember walking up and a piglet turned towards me. My first reaction was like anybody else, you reach down, and then I had to stop because I had to remember I was being trained on how to kill or watch people kill these animals. And so you walk into the kill area, and you hear screams. They're going into a gas chamber, they're lowered, they fall out, and they're lifeless, and some are twitching. It's horrific, it's awful. So you have to de-individualize them, and you have to remove some of yourself from that experience.
And over the course of your career, did you ever have to train others in the role as well?
Yeah, I think like a few others would have come behind me, but I was they called me the kid because I was like the youngest one there, so I sort of followed into their footsteps more or less. But you have to think like maybe I was in the frame of welfare, so I thought maybe the conditions could be better. And I was mentioning earlier that I was hearing this ba-boom noise. Well, this was crates falling on a conveyor belt. They're throwing the crates down, and the chickens are shaking. So in a welfareist way, we asked them to do it with 2 employees and set down the crate. It's little things like that. But that's really the furthest that I could go as an inspector. Because the more you start to realize that these jobs are really just token positions at the end of the day.
So when you say that it was a token position, you would go and see things, but not really be able to make changes, is that what you mean?
Yeah, 100%. I documented hundreds, if not more, what they call non-compliances. So you would see a chicken's wing, fall, like basically not a part of their body, or scalding tank, how many birds has gone through a scalding tank. You would bring that up to your supervisor, and nothing really gets done about it. I've been to court 2 times, and one time I think it was over 24,000 birds that came in on a hot day, and the majority of them died due to heart attacks because of the heat. And if you can imagine, people were standing on bodies and trying to find the live ones just so they could hang them on the line. No one got persecuted for that. No one got charged for that because they couldn't determine who was at fault, the farmer, the transporter, or the processor, so none of them were at fault.
And so what was that like, having this job where ostensibly you're there to make sure things happen in a sort of welfareist way, but when you bring things up, nothing happens?
Well, I think like you try to get some things done in a welfare way, but yeah, I think you just feel defeated. I think you try as much as you can through unions or through, I know there's a couple times where I kind of emailed like the entire Ontario or Canada about these things, and I got reprimanded for it, but at least a minister or somebody had to talk about it, so there was some clever ways to work around it, but again, it's more or less to make people feel good about it. And I think it was Kira was mentioning earlier about the greenwashing. It's claimed like, you know, humane and all this. The job that I had primarily was animal transport. It used to be called humane transport. And so if you can imagine why they would change that name from humane transport to animal transport, it's because they don't want to talk about humane or welfare or any of these terms, because it's much easier to make people think that some sort of body's watching over this.
So, you mentioned that you had these feelings of this is terrible, what you saw was happening to the animals, and you had to compartmentalize and sort of depersonalize the animals. Did any of those feelings change over time? Or were there some sort of like other coping mechanisms when faced with violence like that of the day?
Yeah, well you have to, like again, you have to shut off. A number of people turn to drugs, alcohol, instances around slaughterhouses of violent crime increases. For myself, I turned to alcohol for several years. I didn't even know that I was coping that way until years later, but yeah, you have to imagine yourself somewhere else. Like I remember being on the line where I would imagine I was on a beach somewhere, you know, and I've heard this time and time again from other workers. Yeah, you have to just become a different person, and you lose out on relationships, you lose out on wanting to be around people. This is the hardest thing I've probably done today, to speaking to all of you right now, you know, but that first chicken that I saw frozen to the crate, I don't have a choice, I have to be up here, I have to talk to him.
That's the one that's still in your mind.
Yeah. Flashbacks, you get night terrors. There's been times where I've woken up on the floor in my room. Yeah.
That's tough.
She watched, which I would encourage all of you to check out, the We the Free 3-minute movie challenge. She watched it, she was in tears, and the next day she came to a York University primate protest. So it really does change. Sometimes you just need to be a bouncing board for people to realize that change is inevitable, and you can be a part of that.
Everybody's got there's a spark that gets you, and sometimes it takes a while to permeate, and sometimes it's instant, but I think that's been there for all of us who've made the change. So, I mean, thank you so much for sharing your story with us. How can people get involved with this type of work if they're interested?
Yeah, of course we have a number of groups here, Anonymous, we have We the Free, we have lawyers, we have AEL, you know, there's the Plant-Based Treaty, there's a plethora of them. You just gotta search for it, and the way I kind of say it is one 24-hour period. If you can put that one day in the whole entire year aside and put at least 2 hours a month towards advocacy, we could, like, imagine everybody here doing that. We could see a huge dramatic change. So please get active for the animals. It's us in the room. We're the ones fighting for them, so we need to be their voice, and they need our help.
Okay, well, I think we are going to wrap up for time. We do have time for questions after this, but thank you so much for sharing your story. It's very inspiring. It shows that anyone, even someone who grew up where slaughterhouse work was expected and normalized, can change their perspective and can do this kind of work that more aligns with their values. Yeah, thank you so much. I'm sure the audience agrees that this was a worthwhile. So we will open it up to questions. I think we've got about 10 to 15 minutes. If we go over that, I think you said people could approach you outside for more questions.
Yeah.
My microphone is going to be the one that's getting passed around, and then you can use that one to answer the questions. But thanks again so much.
Great.
Has anyone talked to you about how they might be able to do a freedom of information request to get those videos that you were talking about released?
Yeah, it's a very good question. If you didn't hear, it's about getting freedom of information requests. We've done a number of them with animal justice. Oftentimes, these companies have been able to get away with the threat of their own business or their own security on the line. So oftentimes, we can't get all the information that we're looking for. But I would encourage you to speak to AEL. They're here today, and also Animal Justice. Or you could reach out to myself. I could try to point you in the right direction, but it is a very difficult process. Sometimes we've done them and we don't receive anything, but we have to go back. But I agree it's an important process, and I've helped out with some of them because I can understand the language sometimes. So definitely feel free to reach out to me.
I would expect that you've read Every 12 Seconds by Timothy Packrat. If you have, does he paint an accurate picture of what a slaughterhouse is like?
I haven't had the chance to see that. In fact, I've been given some books to read, but I just can't put myself to watch or look at that. But I think if you were all to paint a picture of whatever you could imagine, times that by maybe 100. It is absolutely devastating to go into one of these places.
Yes. Thank you for your comments today.
Yeah,
really doing great work.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Oh, hey. First of all, thank you for doing this talk. It's very important that people hear your perspective. As somebody who is inside the animal exploitation industry, I guess this is a two-part question. Could you speak a little bit about like the culture of the workers there, like the day-to-day, kind of like the attitude that they have? And then also I wanted to know, as somebody who left the industry, do you have contact with people like still in the industry today, or do you come across people that left? And how do we convince those people? You said that like you got to shut yourself off. How do we turn them back on?
It's a really, really great question. I don't want to phrase it like they're zombies, but it's almost like everybody understands the code. It's just the energy's low. You feel like at a loss, like you just have to get through the day. And so the workers, like some of them you can't even have a conversation with. Their heads are down. They've got blood all over them. There's certain workers that will be doing the killing. They're the ones that really are the ones that you generally can't have a conversation with. You can smell alcohol in their breath. You can definitely tell that people are high, or maybe their mental capacity isn't there. So it's generally just obviously like not a great, like think of your worst day, and then that's sort of how it is all the time. It just doesn't end. It's like this endless cycle. And then your second question, I've come across many people that have worked in it. In fact, as you were asking the question, there was someone who came to an event. They were off to the side, and you have a little bit of security culture. You got to be careful sometimes. And I went up to the gentleman, and he had worked in Alberta on a kill floor when he was 16, and it was a summer job. And this boy that's now a man, you know, he's been suffering his entire life with addictions and thoughts of, you know, taking their own, which is pretty common for a lot of workers. And so I think it was just a matter of him being able to speak to somebody that had worked in the industry. So he's sort of been in and out. You know, he likes comments and stuff like that. I think he feels a little bit not better, but at least he has someone that he can reach out to talk to. I would encourage therapy for anybody. You might think that you've got it all covered, but you don't. Like you really don't know. And so yeah, there's quite a few people that have reached out. In fact, since we started going live at slaughterhouses on YouTube, we've had, I think, 4 or 5 people cross the line. Even some of them are now doing live streams as vegan activists because of the things they saw. So, love that. Yeah. So there's encouragement there and there's hope. Yeah. Yeah, my social media handle, you might get a kick out of it. So it's the 40-year-old vegan. So if you ever want to check out my Instagram, my YouTube, I'm on Facebook as well. And yeah, feel free to reach out. I'm here to help, and you know, we have a really good community, and we really just want to continue to grow it. Many of us are here because we're like-minded thinkers, and we want to teach you how to become advocates and move forward and change the world for the better. Thank you, Jenny.
Yes, I'm just wondering how your work, both before and now, is being affected by these ag-gag laws.
Yeah, so the question was about the ag-gag laws. Originally, when these laws were coming, obviously, you know, these are bills that are meant to silence us. If someone works for a company and they see wrongdoing, they can actually be charged on one of these farms. Can you imagine? And so it's really detrimental. I know Animal Justice has been fighting Bill 156, for example. We actually did a Meet the Victims action in Kitchener a few years ago to spread awareness about what was happening, because this goes against our fundamental freedoms of expression to be able to know what's happening. And so I would encourage everybody to really speak with Animal Justice, or like help them spread the message out when they go to the Supreme Court to fight this bill, and then talk to your neighbors and your friends about it. I mean, this could translate into other industries. This is, I don't think a lot of people realize that it can move from one spot to another. And again, that Charter of Freedom and Expression is there for us, right? We're there, and we need to advocate for it. We need to fight, defend it. So I hope that answers your question.
Thank you so much, David, for this wonderful interview and opening up about the slaughterhouse industry. If you are vegan, please use your voice to stand up for the animals. We are all they have, and they need your compassion, energy, and love. Please join an animal rights group and get involved. Together we can end this horrendous treatment of the animals and make this world a much better place.